Hi, welcome to IRB Manager Training. After completing this brief training, you will need to submit a completed and signed request for login to utilize the online submission system. Please visit the IRB website for this form and for instructions. IRB Manager is a web-based system designed specifically for the IRB review process, all the way from submission to approval letters. With IRB Manager, you'll be able to submit new studies online, track the progress of your existing studies, manage existing studies, and you can do this all from any location that has internet access. IRB Manager was designed to speed up the review process, eliminating delays caused by routing time for submissions, reviewer forms, and approval letters. The IRB Manager website is listed on your screen. Don't forget to bookmark the site so you can easily get to the website in the future. To log into IRB Manager, first you're going to go to the website, enter your username, your password, enter the ETSU as a client, click Login. You'll notice on your first login that you'll be prompted to change your password. Passwords should be at least 8 characters in length and include at least 2 of the following 3: uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and numbers. Please note that if you enter the wrong password 3 times, your account will be locked out. If that happens, you must contact an IRB staff member to have your password reset and your account unlocked. Okay, so to log in to IRB Manager, first you're going to go to the website. Here you will enter your username, your password, the client, which is ETSU, and I'll just make a couple notes here. If you will check the box Remember Client on your computer, it's going to feed in ETSU for you every time. Also, if you forget your password, there is a link here to reset your own password or to retrieve your password. Click Login, and now you're in IRB Manager. From here, this is your home screen. So you'll notice at the top of the screen that there's a Home tab. You'll click on this tab from anywhere in the system to get back to this page. Also on the top right, you'll see there's a Help button. From here, if you choose Contact Administrator, you can send an email directly to the Director of the IRB. Also, you'll find your settings here, and we'll go ahead and click on that. So you can see you can change your password, you can change your profile, add or change your phone number, same thing for address. You can see the last 25 times that you've logged into the system, and you can create an email signature. I'm going to click back on the Home tab so you can go back to the home page. You'll also note on the top right, the very last tab is to sign off. You'll also notice we have a left toolbar. On this here, you'll see here you can start an X form, and we'll come back to that. You can see the last 7 items that you've been working on. When you initially log in, this will be blank, but as you work in the system, you'll notice things appear here. So you can click on any of those to get back to where you left off. Then you'll see messages. These are universal messages that all users of the system will see. Then we've provided useful links. You'll see we've provided a link to city training, city instructions, the Form 129, which is what you would submit if you're not sure if your project is human subjects research or not. There's a member manual for IRB board members, and then there's a researcher manual. And this is also available on our website. If you get lost in the system and need help, you can use the researcher manual either by obtaining it from IRB Manager or from the IRB website. The last thing here you'll see are documents and forms. User attachments you can ignore. Those are not actually usable at this point. And then we have X forms. And the X forms stands for the forms that you'll be using in the system. And go back to the top here, and you'll see your studies are listed. It tells you what studies you're associated with and what role you play on those studies. You'll see X forms. It shows you how many X forms you have that are unsubmitted, any X forms that are being processed at a later stage, and how many X forms are awaiting your attention. The next thing you'll see is events. And events are anything that's going on with your study. So when you submit a new study, you'll see new protocol submission or new exempt submission. If you need to change anything on your study, you'll see modification. If you have an expedited or full study, you're going to see that you'll have to go through continuing review once a year, and so you'll have a Form 107 to submit for that. So it could be many other events, but those will be listed here when they're open. And so it will show you, you can choose if you have more than one role for a study. Say you're the principal investigator for a study, but you're also a coordinator for another study. You can ask it to show you only the ones that you are the coordinator for or the principal investigator for. It'll also show you, there's a link here that you can click to go straight to see what study it's tied to, what the event is, who the PI is, when it was started, and what exactly the instance is. You can also click on the event type to get straight to the event and track the progress of that event. Now I'm going to go back to the home page to finish telling you about what's on here. So then you'll see the last thing here are your studies. Any studies that you're associated with will be listed here, whether you are the PI or coordinator, research assistant, or faculty advisor. It lists them here by study number, which is the number that it gets when it comes into the IRB, then by site, which will either be ETSU, Mountain States Health Alliance, or the VA, then by PI. The study title will be listed, expiration date, and status. Now, status is the last review, so it could be a new submission, could be open to enrollment, approved, still enrolling, etc. Also, a note about expiration dates. If it's an exempt study, it currently does not have an expiration date. But if it's a full or expedited study, they are typically approved for up to 12 months, and so you will have an expiration date listed here on the home screen. You can sort these, any of these that have double arrows. You can sort, and so if you did that by expiration, it'll bring to the top the ones that are getting ready to expire. And then also, if you wanted to see how many studies you have open to enrollment, you could click inside of that box that says open to enrollment, and it'll pull those studies out. Now, how you know you're on a subset of studies is it creates this little checked box around the studies, and you just click back into that box to get back to the previous screen. Now, for those of you that need to submit a new study to the IRB, once you log in, you'll come under Actions and choose Start X Form. I'm going to expand this. And then you will choose New Protocol Submission. And I won't walk you all the way through the form, I just want to give you an idea of what you'll see. So it feeds in who's submitting the form, and then you'll enter a project title. Then you'll enter the email address of the principal investigator. Now, I'm going to misspell my name so that you can see what it does if you have the wrong name in there or someone who's not a user of the system. So you'll see it displays it with the message that the contact is not found. If this is the case and you know that you have spelled it correctly, you'll need to contact the IRB office so we can check the email we have on file as well as see if they're a user of the system. If, however, you put it in and you have put it in correctly, then it will display their name, email, and phone number. Then you choose your affiliation and click Next. So to move forward, you will click Next on each screen. You may have to maximize your screen and scroll up and down on the pages to get all of the questions. A couple of notes to tell you, if you're on a form, you'll notice that many of the questions are required. So if it's a required question, you have to answer that question to move forward. However, if you're not sure of an answer and you want to get as much done as possible, you can always answer the question. Say we're doing, maybe we think it's a case study, but we're not sure, so we'll add ourselves a note to fix this before submission. And you'll see that it pulls this out as a note that is a different color than the question box, and so it will catch your attention as you're going back through to proofread. And you have the ability to delete any notes that you put on the form. So if you don't need it, once you go back and fix it, you can delete it. Or say maybe it's a yes/no question and you want to give the IRB more information. Okay. So you can put that there. You can leave that note for us to see. So you could delete your own note once that's fixed, and then you can leave this note for us to see. Now, I'm not going to fill the rest of this out. I'm just going to save it for later, but I want to point out that you can go back to the previous screen. If you click on Next, it's going to redisplay with what items you did not fill out that were required, and then you can always save the form for later. So I'm just going to close this out. If you're an Internet Explorer, you can close it out because it opens in a new window. Just be careful. I know in Firefox, it'll open in a new tab, so you'll just have to close that tab out. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this page, say that we have gone out and we've logged back in, and you'll see that now instead of 7 forms, we have 8 forms. And if you click on that, it's going to take you back. It's going to take you to any forms that are data entry or that are unsubmitted, and then you will see the one we just started is listed here on top, and that's how you will get back to your form to continue working on it. Okay, so I'm going to click on Home. Okay, so the new protocol submission forms are built so that once you submit them, they come to the IRB for a pre-review. And the coordinators will review your submission to make sure it is complete, and we will put notes on the form on any questions that need revision or if we need further documentation. And then we'll send it back to you. So once we get it back from you with those revisions or additional documents, we will move it forward to your faculty advisor, department chair, or higher signatory authority to sign off on your form. Once they've signed the form, then it comes back to the IRB and gets prepared for the IRB chair to review. Once that happens, you'll get an email. The submitter of the form will get an email that says your form has been accepted into IRB Manager. And at this point, you can come into IRB Manager. That form will now become a study, and that study will have a number. So that's where you'll see it down here under My Studies. So you could click on that study, and here's where you can track the progress of your study. You can see here under protocol, this is just general information about your study. The IRB number, if there's a sponsor, what committee it was referred to. There's a campus committee and a medical committee. What category it falls under. This will be ETSU, Mountain States Health Alliance, the VA, or any combination of those 3. Reviewers aren't displayed. And then last review and next review. This is where it would either fall under full review, expedited review, or exempt review. The agent type is the type of research you're conducting. Study title, the year here is the year it was initiated. If you are using an informed consent document, once that's approved, we put here on the front page what version and when it was stamped approved, so you know at a glance what ICD you should be using. Then if your study is closed in IRB Manager, you'll see your closure date listed here. Conditions is just a little more information about the type of research you're conducting, and comments is where the objectives of the study will be listed. Under Protocol Site, you'll see the site listed, investigator name, the status, the approval, expiration date, initial approval date, locations. So if you happen to be doing research outside of ETSU, say in the local school systems, we'll list those school systems here under location. Then you'll see your study staff are listed under contacts. So it'll have their name, their role, and if they are a primary contact for that role or not. And what the primary contact means is that they will be copied on any notifications that are sent from IRB Manager. So you can click on any of the blue links here. You can click on those. If you click on someone's name, it's going to show you their contact information, the last time they logged in the system, their address, phone number, what protocols they're associated with. And what's really nice is if you click on their name, under notes, you'll see when their human subject training expires. So this is a good way for you to be able to keep up with your own as well as your study staff. So I'll close this out. Then also, if you are using an informed consent document, you'll have to use the one for your participants that is stamped with the approval and expiration date. And so we list that here under attachments. You'll be able to click on that and print it directly from the home page of your study. Okay, so the next thing you'll see are events. And the events are just what we were talking about earlier, anything that's going on with your study. So it could be a new submission, a modification, continuing review, etc. So you'll see here listed, it lists the event name. It'll tell you if there's any attachments with that event, what instance, the start date, complete date. Primary and secondary reviewers are not displayed. But then once your study goes to the IRB and the minutes are generated, you'll see a date here that you can click on and see what was reported to the IRB. Very important to note on the events, the attachments is where you'll find your approval letter. So you'll get an email from IRB Manager once your study is approved, and it will tell you to log into the system to get your approval documents. Like I said, the ICD, the informed consent document, is going to be listed on your home page. It's also going to be saved under the event, but your approval letter is only saved on the event. So that's where you'll need to go to retrieve that. The last two things listed here are notes and generated documents. Generated documents, typically you won't see anything in there. The emails are logged here under notes, and so it will keep a record of any emails you send from the system, and any responses that you receive will only be sent to your email. Okay, now if you want to see where your modification is, you can click on the name of that event. So you can track the progress in here. You'll see protocol site information, event information, any notes will be listed here, and then you'll see what steps it takes. So when we receive it in the IRB office, you'll see there's a plan date that the system feeds in for us, but then you'll see a date listed here under actual when that's complete, and then it will be marked complete. So you can see it was received in the IRB office, it was reviewed for completeness, it was sent to the chair, and now we're waiting for to receive the review from the chair or the vice chair. So you'll see that's marked no. A couple of these are marked NA, and so those are ones that aren't pertinent to this modification request, so it doesn't need to go to the full board. We're not adding any study staff, so we don't have to verify their education. You'll see I left the attach revised informed consent and enter approved ICD version date. I left those on there so you could see if you are changing the title, you'll need to change it on all your documents. And then, especially the ones that participants will see. And then I didn't need to add or delete contacts. Then we put here what the next board meeting date. So we actually put that in for the plan date, and so that's when it's supposed to go. And then when you will be notified of approval. So these are plan dates, and then we fill in the actual dates and mark them complete so you can see where your event is in the process. Now I'm going to click done and go back to the previous page and show you if you have an existing study and you need to submit a form for that study. So say you need to submit a modification or a continuing review. You will come into that study page by clicking on that IRB number from the home page, and then under actions you'll click Start X Form. Now here you'll see you get several more options of forms. So for today's purposes, we will just submit a modification request form. So you can see what that's like. And I'll take you through this form because it's really short. So it feeds in the principal investigator, IRB number, project title, and who's submitting the form. So a note about that, we've built the forms so that they can be submitted by any of the study staff. And what will happen is once they submit it, the PI will get a notification email that says this form is ready for review and approval. They'll have a link that they can click to get to the form to review it. They can add notes and send it back if needed, or they can put in their password and send it forward. Okay, so then we have a feeder question, is this a VA study? If it is a VA study, you'll need to submit a separate modification form. It's the VA modification form. Okay, and then we'll click next. So for this modification, we'll just add study staff. So we'll just say we're going to add Becky Fee as a coordinator. Okay. And was it requested by the sponsor? We'll say no for today's purposes, but if it is actually requested by the sponsor, you would say yes and then add that correspondence below there. And then click next. Then you'll have several questions that you'll need to answer. Will it require a change to the informed consent? We'll say no. Will it require a change or addition of any other documents? For today's purposes, we'll say no. Will it add new study staff? Yes. Will it change the risk? We'll say no. Will it add a vulnerable population? Today we'll say no. The last question is, how will the new information be communicated to currently enrolled participants? So if this coordinator is not actually going to be involved with the participants, you can say it's not applicable. Okay. So I just want to make one more note about why these questions are here. If you answered yes to informed consent, then the following page would be about informed consent. Same thing for the change or addition of any other documents. And so we've answered no, so you won't see those pages. And so we've tried to build all of our forms that way so that you won't see questions that aren't pertinent and that aren't required if you answer questions a certain way. So I'll click next. And then you'll see the only questions we get here are about study staff. So have they completed their IRB training? Yes. We ask that you not submit it if they haven't, because it will either be sent back to you until they do, or it'll just be held until they complete it. However, if they have not completed the CITI through ETSU, then you can attach their certificate of education from whatever other institution they've completed training at. Okay, and then you have to have documentation from the study staff regarding conflict of interest. So we'll say, yes, we have that. There's a link here to that conflict of interest form, and there's also a link on our website to get to the policy if you need to see what that conflict of interest is. Okay, there's a link here, policies and procedures. And then if they do have a conflict of interest, then there's a form that they'll need to fill out. Okay, but for today's purposes, we'll just say no, there was no conflict identified. We'll go next. And then if you are the PI completing this form, you will enter your password and click next and then submit the form. You can also save it for later at this point, and you can print it if you need to for your records. But once you hit submit, then it comes on to the IRB. If you're a coordinator or a research assistant filling it out for a PI, then that's when the PI will get an email saying that this form is ready for their signature. Okay, so then if you go back to the Home tab, you can see we have another X form here that's being processed at a later stage. So this front page is called the dashboard, and it's really a great view for you to see what studies you have active, what your role is on those studies, what forms you have out there, any events that you have open, and then of course all of your studies will be listed here on the front page as well. Let me just give you a couple of notes. You can add notes to the X form like I showed you, and you have the ability to delete it if you need to, or leave it if you want us to see it. If a question is labeled required, it won't let you move forward. You can attach multiple documents within a form, but the documents have to be attached one at a time. And there are preset limits, so if you run into a problem, say you have 10 attachments and it only let you do 5, you can contact us and we can fix that so you can add your 10 attachments. But also if you're having maybe 10 questionnaires, you can save them as one document and then just upload that one document. And all of your notifications are going to be sent to your email once you are a user of the system. So make sure that the email that we have in IRB Manager is the one that you will check, the one that's easiest to communicate with you. And for passwords, for ETSU employees and students, you can use the password that you use to sign on to your ETSU computer. If you want to, it's just an easier way to keep up with your password, but they are set to expire in 90 days, and so you'll have to reset that password, and you will be prompted to do so. Also, if you need to change your password, and like if you are using your ETSU password and that changes, then you can come in here under your settings and reset that password. And I think that is it. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this training, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact an IRB staff member.